Life is a journey. The places you go, the deeds you do, the tales whose hero you become. Every road is yours to take.
Octopath Traveler 2 just dropped on the Xbox Game Pass, and I've been waiting to play this game since it got announced. After logging over 48 hours on the first game on my Nintendo Switch a couple of years ago, it was just a matter of time until I got a taste of this beloved turn-based JRPG. And the game is amazing. The first game was already good enough on its own, and JRPGs aren't made for everyone, but Octopath Traveler 2 already won my heart. I've reviewed a few games on this channel, and I'm sure you've noticed I like using the Octopath Traveler theme because the music in this game is so good. Oh yeah, there will be spoilers. You have been warned. Let's jump right into the game.
And the show has yet to begin. Now, everyone, prepare yourselves for a show.
Octopath Traveler 2 starts off similar to its prequel, where you have to choose which traveler you'd like to play as. You get to choose between Temenos, the Inquisitor Cleric, Ochette, the Beastling Hunter, Hikari, the Warrior Prince of Ku, Agnea, the Superstar Dancer, Partitio, Mr. Big Money Man Merchant, Castti, the Best Mom Apothecary, Osvald, the Mysterious Hunky Zaddy Scholar, and Throne, the Best in the Nest Thief. Oh yeah, their names spell Octopath if you haven't noticed. In the first game, I started off with Therion. I mean, just look at that guy. This time, I started off with Throne. Not just because she's hot, but because I love the Thief class, because of this guy, and also the color purple. Octopath Traveler 2 isn't just a rehash of its prequel, but made the game a lot more interesting by letting players take other path actions during the day or the night. From being able to steal during the day to knocking out people in the nighttime, this proves for a more immersive and expressive gaming experience for the players. Now, you're not just stuck with characters that can do certain tasks, but you can mix and match the party to your desired overworld experience. Characters like Osvald, who let you scrutinize NPCs for information during the day, have a separate path action in the night where he mugs the NPCs for their items, since Throne would be putting them to sleep with her path action. Similarly, if you can't seem to gather information in the evening, you can put Hikari in your party and he'll bribe NPCs for information while challenging them to duels in the day and knocking them out if he's successful. If you can't use your allure on NPCs with Agnea's charms during the daytime, since they only come out at night, you can have Ochette befriend the NPCs with food. I mean, who can resist food? I'd be friends if they'd be offering me jerky. All of the playable characters' path actions complement each other and would really mix up the overworld interaction for players. If you don't want to ambush people with Throne, how about using Castti's Soothe action and putting people to sleep with medicine? Okay, that doesn't sound right. Kidding aside, I just love how the developers thought of improving the path actions and even include a menu where you don't have to use every character to interact with it. Instead, you can just go up and down your roster and choose what to do with that NPC. Oh yeah, did I mention that characters had certain effects during the night, like how Throne buffs her team while Temenos debuffs enemies? Octopath Traveler 2 really put that day and night system to good use. Another improvement I liked about Octopath Traveler 2 is that you don't have to play each character's chapter 1 after completing your selected traveler's first chapter. Try saying that fast. This enhances the freedom of choice you get even in the first game, however, it takes it up another notch. Back in the first Octopath Traveler, you'd have to complete every character's chapter 1 just to recruit them into your team, which would take you at least 9 to 11 hours to gather all 8 travelers. This time, you can catch these travelers in the middle of their journey. Some go directly to chapter 3, some have branching paths, and some even have side stories to do aside from their main quest. The story in Octopath Traveler 2 is a major step up from its predecessor. Back then, when all you get are just travel banisters and the characters don't interact in the story, this time you get chapters that pair 2 of the 8 travelers together, creating a more believable tale of ragtag travelers going on a journey together, and not just you picking them up from where they are in the story and just being an ally in their cause during the fights they have in their story. Once you reach a certain point in a character's chapter, these shared chapters open up for both those characters. The chapters in the game have more depth this time. Instead of having to do 4 chapters per traveler, Now you have a mix of travelers with 5 chapters, one with 3 chapters, and as mentioned earlier, branching storylines. Instead of that predictable villain of the week formula you had in Octopath Traveler 1, where in the end of every chapter, there has to be a boss fight put in just to make sure you fought off a big bad. In Octopath Traveler 2, you get more lore on the characters themselves, and it's not condensed just because you have to fit in a boss battle towards the end of that chapter's story. Some stories even pay off towards the end of the game, which is why you'd have to totally play through the entirety of the game. Another thing I love about the game is now you don't have to start your journey alone. Some characters will have NPCs join the party temporarily, which makes it more fun and adds depth to the characters that help you, even if it was a quick 15-minute section in the game. Hell, some characters even have some potential, like Crick in Temenos' story. He had a lot of depth in his character, and even if he was just a plot device for Temenos' story progression. The combat in Octopath Traveler 2 is basically the same as the first game. However, they've added a new system called Latent Power, which is unique for every character. Hikari and Ochette gain access to a few different moves. Throne allows her to take a second turn, Osvald changes his AoE skills into a single target spell to do more damage, Castti can concoct buffs and heal or debuff and damage the enemy without costing her any ingredients, Temenos can break the enemy's shields using any attack, Partitio gains a full set of boost points, and Agnea can share her dance buff to the team or do an area-wide attack. The possibilities are endless with how you can build your team for combat. You do keep the same mechanics where you can boost using BP to hit multiple times or use your divine skill. There hasn't been much difference in that department. Classes, on the other hand, have been reworked. Gone are the days where you had to suffer from having only 2 clerics in your party, with one being Ophelia and the other probably Cyrus or Alphen. In Octopath Traveler 2, why just have 2 of the same class when you can have a party of 4 thieves, 4 clerics, 4 scholars, or 4 apothecaries? That's like, I don't know, this big number combination? To be honest, I'm not sure if the math is right, but my choices are either 336 combinations or 65,536 combinations, which blows my mind even more. The possibilities are endless. In Octopath Traveler 2, the Scholar job has integrated the Sorcerer job from the first game, allowing the characters to cast spells with varying intensity after using specific buffs. The Thief has gotten some nerfs with the loss of Steel SP, however, it is still a powerhouse due to the Divine skill. Every class has gone through changes, and if I were to list them here, we'd be going on for a while. However, one thing I love in Octopath Traveler 2 is the inclusion of EX skills. Back when you went shrine hunting for jobs, this time you'll be shrine hunting for EX skills your characters can use in combat. These offer a lot of utility to the fight, such as being able to pass your current buffs to a teammate, to having enemies miss their next physical attack, or even help you with turn manipulation. EX skills are also awarded to characters whenever you complete their story. This incentivizes players to complete each traveler's story just so you can get their respective EX skill. I'm not gonna lie, Throne's EX skill carried me through the entirety of the mid-game. The first game had secret jobs, and this time I'm quite impressed with a few of these. We have the Inventor job, which is basically a mix of support and damage, which I totally enjoy a lot. We get the Arcanist job, which is also the support role. The Weapon Master is basically the Arms Master from the first game, but on steroids, and the Conjurer, which plays similar to the Rune Mage, however offering more support capabilities, such as reviving the entire team at the cost of being unable to move for 3 turns. The new secret jobs are a pleasant surprise for old and new players alike. The thing I enjoyed about doing these secret jobs is that they aren't like the first game where you have to fight against bosses guarding the job's power. Well, except for the Conjurer, and fuck those 5 boss fights you have to rush through so you can get this job. Also, shout out to the Arcanist job, as well as you have to fight off an optional boss to get to it. This time, you'll be solving puzzles, acquiring materials for inventions, and finding the missing legendary weapons. It makes the players feel more involved with the secret job by working towards it and even learning more about the job itself by interacting with NPCs that are entangled with the job story. The Inventor and the Weapon Master jobs just have more value to them story-wise. However, I'd like to learn more about the Arcanist backstory aside from just a short text the NPC tells you about it. The Conjurer story can suck ass since it's just about people trying to use its power and not being able to pass the 5 boss fights. But nonetheless, it does a great job in conveying its short story.
This is nice. Truth be told, this isn't where I imagined my journey would take me.
Speaking of stories, slight spoilers for every character's story, but I won't be going into deep detail to not spoil everything since the game just came out last year. You can't skip to the next timestamp if you do not want to be spoiled. As I mentioned when I started the video, I started off with Throne. She's a thief and her job is to steal and clean things for the Black Snakes, a thieving guild led by people called Mother and Father. Her story boils down to her learning more about her past, who her real parents were, and her desire to be free. She is thrown into a web of lies, conspiracy, and the dark truth about the Black Snakes, which culminates in her killing Piro, a fellow snake who wants to be the next father of the gang, chasing after father and mother who pitted them in a succession war, and killing them both for the key to her choker, where if she were to forcefully remove it, would inject poison right into her bloodstream to finally defeating a shadowy figure which holds the true key to her freedom. Throne is one of the characters with a branching storyline, and I tell you, the storytelling for her chapters are wild. You can choose whatever route first, but the story will still make sense as each branching chapter correlates with each other. I tried going the father route first as it felt more compelling because father is a warmer character to Throne compared to mother, and boy was I in for a surprise when they completed the mother route after. The second character that felt really compelling to me was Partitio, and oh boy, his story is amazing. From being a poor merchant stuck in his town after being tricked by his father's business partner to trying to revolutionize the world via the power of sales and inventions. Partitio is the ultimate salesman. I enjoyed every bit of his story as it is very lighthearted and was a great palate cleanser after going through the dark story which was Throne's. Partitio has to go after a guy named Rock who wants to monopolize the use of the steam engine and tax everyone who uses the technology, in which Partitio must purchase the rights to the steam engine and share the invention's technology to the world for free. My favorite part of the story is the side character Elrond. He is just so extra and his involvement in the story really makes for a great experience. Also, you get to fight a train that's also a tank, so there's also that. So, Thomas the Tank Engine can suck it.
Before I invest, I need a closer appraisal of your caliber.
Do you want me to take my shirt off or something?
No. Please, stay dressed. But
I then jumped onto Hikari's story. His story felt very cinematic in my opinion, and I loved every second of it. From being a prince who was accused of betraying his nation to trying to change the very path his nation was known for, which was war and bloodshed. Hikari wants a world where there are no more wars and fighting, and to do that, he must defeat his brother Mugen who has usurped the throne and is on the brink of bringing the war across the entirety of Celestia. I found it a bit cliche that Hikari had an evil side to him, however, it does make for a satisfying ending when he finally overcomes it. After Hikari's story, Castti was next on the block. Castti's story is absolutely wild. It starts off with Castti having no memory of what happened and who she is, and is being treated as an outcast by the first city she steps foot in because of a group called Heirs Apothecaries where her clothes have their insignia, and rumor has it that they poisoned and killed off an entire village. She must now travel around Celestia in search of clues to who she is and find out what the Heirs Apothecaries have to do with her. I got freaked out when I first completed chapter 1 to her story because the game glitched and I thought my GPU fried itself. Cassie's story is a tearjerker, and you have to play this game yourself because I can't tell you enough how touching the story is.
Malaya. You and the others saved my life. Now it's my turn.
Ochette's story is basically Pokemon. I mean, the Hunter class was just catching Pokemon since the first game, but this time Ochette must gather 3 legendary beasts to help protect the island she's living in from a looming calamity. Ochette also gets a choice between 2 creatures that partner up with her, an owl named Mahina which shows elemental weaknesses, or a good boy, Akala, which shows physical weaknesses. I chose Akala of course because good boy, and also Throne loves dogs. Ochette also fights this thing. I mean, holy fuck, that thing is ugly.
Disgusting shit.
Speaking of ugly, Osvald's story starts really bad. Osvald gets framed for the murder of his wife and daughter and is sent to Ice World Alcatraz, or what the game calls it, Frigid Isle. Osvald must escape and enact vengeance against his old friend, now turned enemy Harvey. Osvald's story is a great emotional roller coaster, plus it also hints out about a bigger plot point for the party later on. Agnea's story is very sweet. I enjoyed how her story is lighthearted, yet not just all about that cutesy stuff compared to Primrose's dark story in the first game. Agnea wants to follow in the steps of her mother and wants to be a superstar that makes people smile. Agnea then finds a rival in the biggest superstar in the land, and you know what happens next. The story is serving Ingenue, finding her place in the world, and I live for that. Also, Dulcinea doing this, I live for that. Mama is feeding the children with that look.
Slay!
close off the 8 travelers, Temenos was up next, so upon seeing Temenos the first time, I really felt like he was going to be a bland character. As I played Ophelia back in the first game, I felt her story was really weak, but Temenos' story, oh boy, I was in for a ride. His story revolves around solving the mystery of the Pontiff's death and uncovering the plans of a doomsday cult. Temenos is a great character, to be honest. I love how he has a little condescending tone, but not overly snarky. He also goes full Batman detective mode in solving mysteries, which is great because it really showcases the intelligence Temenos has, recreating crime scenes with his detective vision. A great addition to his story is Crick, and I love their interactions. Crick has that slightly comedic sidekick vibe, while Temenos has that more serious, unbothered energy. Also, Temenos has a fun intro story where you get to play as Elfric the Flamebringer, so there's a taste for the power of a god, and it teases the final boss of the entire game.
You're rather cute now that I've had a look at you. Let me have a look at that mighty staff of yours, won't you? Aw, come now. You must be tired. If you don't sheath your staff every now and again, well...
That won't be necessary. Further, staves do not need sheaths. And you're a terrible liar, Reza. You're no traveler. You're from the village.
Since we've done the individual stories, we've got to cover the new addition in Octopath Traveler 2, Crosspaths. I really love this addition because travelers are now paired with each other and the dynamics can range from heartwarming to, who thought these guys can make a good duo? I totally enjoy the sequences from these crosspaths. These can be played after completing Chapter 2 and Chapter 4 for each traveler. Story-wise, Temenos and Throne's crosspath is great. They have that Batman and Robin type energy, except where Temenos leaves the dirty work to Throne while trying to find treasure and solving mysteries themselves. Agnea and Hikari's story is super lighthearted, and I'm not gonna lie, it does feel like the devs are trying to ship them together, and I love the dialogue in their crosspaths. The time where they stood under the moon got me shouting, "Y'all should kiss." Other than that, it's a beautiful exchange of art and culture. Osvald's and Partitio's crosspath is absolutely fun. Partitio is like that energetic young brother with a serious, cold older brother. The story mixes the pursuit of knowledge and the love of sharing that knowledge to people. Partitio in particular just sparks joy amongst the characters. Osvald's quiet and serious demeanor just absolutely contrasts that perfectly, which can lead to funny scenarios. Finally, Ochette and Castti. This one has a nice and warm experience. Castti and Ochette investigate why there hasn't been good meat from hunting in a village and uncover a more sinister story. I love their dynamic where Castti tells Ochette off and Ochette just responds with, "Yes, ma." Even though canonically, Agnea is the youngest in the cast, Ochette is more childish and really complements the maternal energy best mom Castti offers. You'll see why once you play her story. Nonetheless, the crosspath is a welcome addition, and hopefully we get more of these if ever Octopath Traveler 2 gets a sequel. I'd love to see a 4-character crosspath story, which would be fun seeing half of the entire group interact with each other in a shared story experience. After completing all of the crosspaths, you're now tasked with doing the true ending for the game. This is a point of no return situation where you'll have to beat the foreshadowed true final boss from Temenos' story. I do appreciate how Temenos' story actually wraps up at this point in the game. I'm not gonna spoil the final story plot and ending, but I'm gonna tell you, it answers some of your questions and leaves you with a few more questions after. I tell you, the final boss ain't no slouch too. It will give you a run for your money, and if your team is not properly optimized, well shit, you're tough out of luck because it will wipe you out if you don't properly plan a strategy and build your team accordingly. There are also side stories after you complete each traveler's story, so some NPCs that you see during the campaign will have some closure. It's a fun way to wrap up some loose ends without it being part of the actual story, and the rewards are worth it, so you better complete them so you don't miss out on some good stats. Quick side note, every time you finish a character's story, let's say Partitio or Hikari or Throne, they have their own ending themes for their chapters. Also, the side quest completion song in the first game, yeah, that annoying one, that's gone too. Good riddance. Now that we got the story out of the way, let's talk about some tips and tricks for the game. One of my favorites is having Elrond join the team. You can hire him with Partitio for 160,000 leaves, or allure him with Agnea or befriend with Ochette. Guiding him with Temenos will require you to have Temenos at a higher level, so that's a no-go. Best way is to get some money and hire him with Partitio. Once you have Elrond on your party, you now have to find a formidable encounter, either a boss or some high-level mobs, and you have to summon Elrond 3 times in that fight to get max value. If your RNG is good, Elrond will use an XP times 100 boost on the party, which really helps with the grinding, especially when you're gearing towards the late game. Another tip I have is to take advantage of strong NPCs in your area. If you have a chance to allure them, try to do it, or if you have the money to throw around, hire them. There's an NPC in Chocohopo who can deal 999 damage when you summon him, or the Judge from Timberrain. Absolutely the best summons you can get if ever you feel like you need a little boost while fighting. There's a scummy way of having Hikari learn techniques. It will cost money, but you can challenge strength level 9 to 10 NPCs and learn their techniques without even having to attack them once. You can spam the item called Bottle of Nightmares and stack all of the debuffs on an enemy. This can take some time because you're waiting for the poison to whittle the enemy's HP to 0, but it's worth it once you learn these strong techniques, especially if you want to breeze through some sections. But I had to do it the hard way and learn the Mighty Blade with War Master Hikari because fuck that strat. Money will solve your problems in Octopath Traveler 2. There's a band of assassins you can recruit and they will get added to your roster for the merchant's hired help skill, and will do big PP dagger damage and heal the team and restore their SP. Another bang for your buck option is the Beastling option for 15,000 leaves. Just make sure to have max BP and you can break 4 shield points from your enemy regardless of their weakness. Hired help just got busted in Octopath Traveler 2. Make sure you complete Partitio's Scent of Commerce side quest because the game now allows you to travel the overworld via ship. And I tell you, this was a great addition because it adds to enemy diversity, makes the world more cohesive, and it doesn't feel like a landlocked experience compared to the first game. And if you're up for a challenge, you can also fight a super boss as a side quest, and this will mess you up if you don't prepare for it. I tried to brute force it, and it took me around 3 hours to beat Galdira the Fallen. This is the final boss from the first game, and is a huge challenge, so I gotta tell you. You can beat this at the lower level, but you just have to strategize consistently, or you can also try to brute force it. Throne is my favorite character, and I've built her a lot, and gave her a lot of nuts. Okay, that sounds wrong, but stat boosting items are called nuts, and you're just gonna need them if you decide to square up with the final boss, or the secret super boss. There's a guy that needs you to have Temenos be your major damage dealer, but a Throne is just chef's kiss, man. Speaking of challenges, they recently put out extra battles where you can fight the final boss of the story again, but in a more buffed up, roided up version of itself if you're a masochist like that. You can even fight the travelers from the first game, and it'll be a tough fight, so you better bring your A game. After all that game glazing, there are some gripes I have for the game. There's an underutilization of characters in the story. There's this person called Petrichor the Dark Hunter, and they don't even show up in a story battle. It would have been an awesome closer for Ochette's story, or how they mentioned that Harvey lived after the fight with Osvald, and there's no sign of him in the postgame. Finally, the bloodline that was referenced in Osvald's story and crossed paths in Thrones and Temenos' story, they could have fleshed this out more, instead of just leaving the character named Alpatis who has less than 10 minutes of screen time, just to kill her right after in the next chapter. Octopath Traveler 2 is a great game, and is definitely an awesome sequel to the first, and I swear, I can see myself playing this game again by doing challenge runs without hired help, or using the quick XP tech with Elrond, or having NPCs fight for you. The game has stunning visuals, and I absolutely love the establishing shots chosen in the game. The music is top tier, and I really love bopping to the tracks, especially in the towns. Don't forget the main theme. The game has a lot to offer, and I recommend people who are fans of turn-based JRPGs to give Octopath Traveler 2 a shot. Thank you so much for watching. I totally appreciate you taking your time viewing or even just listening to the video. Please leave a like, comment, or even subscribe. It's free, you know, and it just helps me know that you guys like this type of video. I've got a goal to hit 500 subs this year, and hopefully you can help me reach it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.